Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the newest episode of Tap Outs and Touchdowns. As always, it's your guy, Bully Rye, back at it again wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Anchor Podcasts, now available on YouTube and every week on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network. Make sure you like and subscribe wherever it is that you're listening and leave a review to help others find the show. A quick reminder where you can find the show on social media: on Twitter at Tapouts and TDs, Facebook.com/Tapouts and Touchdowns, and the email to the show tapoutsandtouchdowns@gmail.com. And make sure you search for our YouTube channel as we have new content coming soon on that platform, including this very show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next episode of Tap Outs and Touchdowns. We've got a really fun show for you today. Hope you enjoy the fantasy football preview that we launched last week. But without further ado, let's bring in wrestling show co-host PJ Steven is with us again. PJ, how you doing today, bud?
That noise. I'm doing very, very well. I'm recovering from a show that we played last night. That's why I still have makeup on my face. Even though I showered, sometimes it stays on there for the next couple of days. But no, I'm feeling really excited. I am kind of excited to talk to you about this event. We are covering SummerSlam 2022. We've covered SummerSlams in the past. We actually did a past episode. We talked about SummerSlam. But now we're doing this year. We're keeping it current with this particular SummerSlam. And I don't know. I'm kind of excited to talk about it. We're going to do some shitting. We're going to shit on some things, you know? I mean, that's what we do here. You know, we're fans. We're going to shit on stuff.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique show. It is the first show in WWE since I would imagine the 70s that Vince McMahon is not in control of creative. This is the first pay-per-view or our first premium live event run by Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Triple H. This event emanated from Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee, July 30th, 2022. And let's get right into the opening bell. We're going to go through some storylines from the show. We're going to go through, I guess, each match on the card and just sort of kind of talk about some storylines. First match on the card, you got Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. The storyline, obviously, a year ago from this event. Becky Lynch returned to WWE after maternity leave and having a baby and all that stuff, and squashed Bianca to win the SmackDown Women's Championship. They get the rematch here to start the show for the Raw Women's Championship. A match that we are going to talk a little bit more about in the main event. Logan Paul and The Miz. I'm not going to really talk about that. If you listen to our WrestleMania show, if you follow wrestling, you know this is just sort of carryover from The Miz turning on Logan Paul from WrestleMania. PJ, anything you want to mention about the next match? Bobby Lashley taking on Theory for the United States Championship.
So two great talent, but, you know, just another rematch.
Yep, just another rematch. That's a really good way to describe it. Bobby Lashley defeated Theory at Money in the Bank to win the United States Championship before Theory won the Money in the Bank briefcase himself, and we get a rematch here at SummerSlam.
And I think it only went like 5 minutes, this match.
Yeah, we'll get into it and break it down, but yeah, not much storyline outside of just the fact that Theory is trying to get his United States Championship back. You got the Mysterios taking on the Judgment Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Rhea Ripley returned prior to this match, so that she's in their corner. PJ, I mean, they've been sort of pushing this. They're teasing the fact that Dominic may or may not join the Judgment Day at some point to turn on his father. Anything really catch your eye about this storyline, about the Judgment Day in general?
Not really the Judgment Day. I had always thought that if Dominic was going to turn heel, that he should kind of do what Jericho was doing in WCW and was like just dispatching of all the cruiserweights. I think that would be a really fun heel move for him to go. He's just being the mask collector and then finally goes for his father to collect his mask. So I think that would be fun. I mean, you know, people shit on Dominic, but I think him joining the Judgment Day, I think the thinking there, because what a faction's supposed to do is get somebody over, you know, Evolution, Ministry of Darkness with the Acolytes, and you know, you can even argue Viscera, I guess. But anyway, so that's what a faction's supposed to do. So I get the idea of putting him in the Judgment Day to kind of build him up a little bit. But I don't think he would need it if they do a correct storyline and do something that is a little bit out of the box and a little bit different. I think that he has the potential and talent to be like a really good heel. They just got to give him the ball and see if he can run with it. And if he can, if the ball deflates, then you move on. But I think giving him the ball himself and seeing what he can do, I think that'd be fine, just fine.
I kind of would like to see it go the other way. Rey Mysterio has never been a heel. I mean, he was sort of a heel in WCW towards the end when he didn't have a mask, but he's never been a true heel in WWE. I'd love to see him turn on Dominic. Like, you're a disappointment, son. Like, you dress and use Eddie Guerrero's moves. I'm your dad. Like, why aren't you?
I wish Eddie was your father because he'd be ashamed of you. Yeah. That's a bad Ray impression, but you know what I'm going for.
I get it. Yeah. So moving right along here in the card, Pat McAfee taking on Happy Corbin. Not really much storyline. They needed a reason to get Pat McAfee on this card. What an athlete. We'll get that into that in the break it down. Next matchup on the card, the Usos taking on the Street Profits for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. PJ, I don't really think there's much storyline to this too. It's the fact that the Profits have been fighting to get these titles. And the Usos have had them locked down for quite some time. I mean, is there anything?
Yeah, it's another rematch, and this time you had a special guest referee. Just another rematch.
We're in Nashville, so I guess they deemed it necessary to have Nashville great, if you want to call him that, because ain't he great? PJ.
Yeah, I am not a fucking Jeff Jarrett fan. Never drew a dime.
Well, JEFF.
I don't know what I liked better, this or his tag team match with Rick's final match.
Yeah.
Did you watch that, by the way? We had completely off topic. Did you watch that?
I tried to. We'll get into that off the air, but
because it was really, really bad. I'm sorry if anyone listening to this, the 10, 11 people who are listening to this, if they enjoyed it, I'm like, man, please write us and tell us what you enjoyed about it, because I really tried, because I'm a big fan of all four of those guys except Jeff Jarrett, so the three of those guys. But man, it was hard to watch. It was really, really bad, and it seemed like a cash cow that failed hard.
Yep, I mean, they made a lot of money.
Just kidding. I can't say that it failed, because you're absolutely right. It made almost $500,000. Yeah, but Jesus Christ,
crazy. Moving along here back to SummerSlam, we've got Liv Morgan taking on Ronda Rousey. And yet another rematch for Money in the Bank, where Liv Morgan cashed in to win the SmackDown Women's Championship, taking on Ronda Rousey here. And then in the main event rematch, you talk about the night of rematches. This is rematch number 16,000, and a literal rematch of a match that they've already had back when it was no crowds. Last man standing match. This time the undisputed WWE Universal Championship is on the line as Roman Reigns takes on Brock Lesnar. Again, I think we're sort of winding down this Brock Lesnar angle, this Brock Lesnar, line, if you will. I think it's about that time for him to disappear again for a while. So it would make sense as to why they would sort of send him off here on SummerSlam, not to try to foreshadow anything. But I think any general wrestling fan would sort of come to the conclusion that, well, if it's a last man standing match, it's the last match between the two of them ever. This is probably the last match for Brock Lesnar for quite some time. Would you agree, PJ?
I would not agree. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure we'll see Brock Lesnar the next couple months.
Well,
I'm not saying you're wrong, because I could see it happening, but I could definitely say that I can definitely see him coming back up very, very soon.
Well, I digress.
It feels like that's where they go when they run out of ideas. But now with somebody else in the chair, maybe they won't run out of ideas as much.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Time will tell.
There's a lot going on in WWE right now. To try to prevent spoilers, there's been people return, both in the show that we'll get into it, break it down, and on SmackDown that emanated from Greenville, South Carolina that I attended. If you listened to the rundown with Desmond Johnson last weekend, I mentioned that I went to the SmackDown show and we had another re-debut of sorts. So, I'm
jealous. I'm jealous you saw that. That's pretty sweet, dude.
Yeah, it's some pretty exciting stuff going on. But I think PJ kind of summed it up. This is the SummerSlam of rematches here. I
It
think
is.
every single one of these matches have taken place, with maybe the exception of Pat McAfee and Happy Corbin and Logan Paul one-on-one with The Miz. But every one of these matches have happened in one shape or form here there. So we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to break down what was SummerSlam 2022. So stick around. We'll be right back right here on Tap Outs and Touchdowns. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. PJ Steven, Bully Rye here with you. And welcome to Break It Down, where we are going to break down what was SummerSlam 2022. PJ, before we start getting into the first match, we didn't really talk about it in the opening bell. Was there any one of these matches that you particularly cared to see? And we should mention there was also a match that was supposed to be on this card that did not take place because of an injury.
I forgot about that. It was Seth Rollins and Riddle, right? Matt Riddle, yeah.
When we did our preview show, we expected that to be match of the night, and that match didn't even take place. So with that match removed from the card, was there any match in particular that you were sort of looking forward to post that match removal? Your face says it all.
I guess maybe the Bianca Belair match, because I'm just such a mark for her. No.
Listen, I think I mentioned in our preview show too, I was looking forward to the Usos and the Street Profits because they can go. I mean, they
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, that's true. All four of those guys are very, very good.
Yeah.
I had to sit through Jeff Jarrett.
No, that's a fair point too. So let's get right into it, shall we? The opening match on SummerSlam 2022, Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's Championship against big time Becky Lynch. This match went 15 minutes and 10 seconds. We actually talked about it off the air. PJ and I didn't really write a whole lot of notes for this pay-per-view. I actually watched it. Shout out to the commish, to Will Smith, the creator of 123 Pins and Collectibles, the creator of Suplex City that all of us are in. This is a Suplex City original. Watched SummerSlam at his house. Had a nice little cookout for a lot of us there, so we had a good time. Nevertheless, PJ, the match was fun. The Gaga post match was better. How'd you feel about this Bianca Belair Becky Lynch match?
I did enjoy it. Not terrible. I love the finish, actually. The Becky going back up to the turnbuckle and Spanish Fly is what tears her down, and then we get the KOD for the win. Good stuff. Bianca Belair goes over. Yeah, we do get a little bit of Gaga because post match, Bayley is back. Our girl Bayley, she's walking down the aisle, and then randomly Dakota Kai comes out, who I'm a huge fan of. Dakota Kai. I think she got shat on all the time in NXT. She's a terrific talent, and this is really, really cool. If that's not planning storylines, what is? Because we're already getting there, baby. I like it.
Yeah, they're pushing the fact that Bayley has been gone for over a year. We've been waiting for her to come back. Not only does Dakota Kai come out with Bayley, Io, now called Io Sky, Io Shirai is also with Bayley. We should mention that after the match, Becky Lynch has a face turn. There were apparently rumors and innuendo. There were no signs, nothing pointing to her turning babyface until Triple H took over. Well, it happened. She went to shake Bianca's hand. They hugged post match, and then when Bayley decided to come and make her presence felt, Becky was right there by Bianca to help, I guess, stand their ground on Monday Night Raw. So we've got a new little women's faction here on Monday Night Raw with Bayley, Io Sky, and Dakota Kai.
Io Sky, Dakota Kai.
It's
which
hard.
Is funny because we heard rumored innuendo that Io Shirai was gone, or not gone, but she was making her way back to Japan. And I guess
But Dakota Kai was not under contract. She's been released from WWE, and they even made a comment on commentary. She's not even under WWE contract. So a nice fun moment here. I should mention that again. I mentioned the opening bell. I went to SmackDown. They I guess pitched the return of the women's tag team championships on SmackDown. There will be a women's tag team tournament to decide the next women's tag team champions. So I think you've got Io Sky and Dakota Kai, probably a good candidate, because they're, you would think that maybe they're going to put the title back on Bayley, and then give kind of like the female bloodline. You got a women's champion and the tag team champions, on both sides. So again, just fun to speculate there. But I digress. Again, 15 minutes, 10 seconds, a really, really great match. The right match to start off SummerSlam. It looked like we were going to get another squash. Didn't happen, obviously. So it was again, a fun match. I definitely suggest to go and watch it. Next up on the card, this match went 14 minutes, 15 seconds. It went 10 minutes and 15 seconds, a little too long for me. Logan Paul taking on The Miz. The Miz has Maurice and Ciampa with him. God only knows why Ciampa is sitting lackey to The Miz, but anyway, Logan Paul taking on The Miz. I should mention also the last match. I don't think we said Bianca. Yeah, you said Bianca went over. Logan Paul goes over The Miz here with a skull-crushing finale. He takes The Miz's finisher and beats The Miz. You've got Logan Paul doing his gymnastic stuff. He's hitting some offense. Maybe the spot of the night just because of how they pitched it. He hits a frog splash off the top rope through the announce table onto The Miz. That would eventually set up the skull-crushing finale. Between McAfee and Logan Paul, I don't think they're going to be hurting for Shane McMahon and his crazy spots anymore. But I have a hard time getting behind Logan Paul. And we're gonna, I'm gonna let you tell your thoughts about the match, but we're gonna save our conversation about Logan Paul to the main event. So, PJ, what'd you feel about the match? And then we'll save conversation for Logan to the end.
I think there was too much Gaga. You had Ciampa out there who eventually gets ejected. You had AJ Styles coming out to jump Ciampa. There was a lot going on, man. I as much as I want to say I wish it would have been one-on-one, it's one of those things where I wish Logan Paul wasn't even in the match. All things considered, not a terrible match, but again, a little bit too much Gaga for me.
It reminded me of some of the WCW matches where they just threw people in the match that didn't make sense.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
I mean, like old WCW Thunder, when you've got like all of a sudden they're trying to build a new stable, so you've got Brian Knobbs and Hugh Morris and some other rando just you're throwing in there. Like, it just didn't make any sense. Again, Logan Paul goes over 14 minutes, 15 seconds. You may like it, you may not, but we're like I said, we're going to get into some Logan Paul discussion in the main event after we discuss the main event of SummerSlam. Next up, I mentioned it again, opening bell, Bobby Lashley defending the United States Championship against Theory. This match was actually advertised to be shown as the dark match at SmackDown in Greenville. It was not. They gave it Bobby Lashley against Ciampa in the main event dark match of SmackDown. So a little change. I'm guessing they're trying to give Theory a break a little bit. Lashley wins with the Hurt Lock. PJ, how'd you feel about this match? Again, there's not much to talk about. This match only went 4 minutes and 15 seconds. It is the shortest match on the card. So when I say there's not much to talk about, there's legit not much to talk about. PJ, how'd you feel about Bobby Lashley defeating Theory for the U.S. Championship?
Quick and easy, and I was happy about it.
Yep.
We moved on,
Yep. Hopefully this puts the U.S. title in Theory's rear view. They can really sort of start teasing more about him cashing in. Not that they haven't already. And we'll get into that in the main event as well. But it's the fact that Triple H is in charge now, you wonder what becomes of Theory's push, because he was never a champion in NXT when Triple H was in charge.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, he was the lackey to Johnny Gargano. So do you think that they did, let's say with Baron Corbin, like they did with not Mr. Kennedy, because they gave that briefcase away, but do you think this is another one of those briefcase throwaways where Theory doesn't win the championship from the briefcase?
I definitely think that.
I mean,
I definitely think that that's not going to lead to him getting the title by any means.
I have been,
unless your theory about, because I know you've said this before, that Cody Rhodes goes over on Reigns and the Theory cashes on Cody Rhodes. Yeah, sure. That's the only scenario that I can see.
Yeah, I mean, that was you basically said what I was going to say. Like, unless that Theory pans out, I just don't see Theory cash. He's not going to cash in on Roman.
It's way too many theories.
Yeah, way too many theories. I wish
if that theory doesn't pan out, then Theory won't have the theory that he can cash in, so that Theory can have the title, and that's my theory.
I wish they would just give him his first name back. I wish Triple H would come back and come on Monday Night Raw on Monday and say, "Listen, I'm reinstating all first names.
All names are here.
Tommaso Ciampa, Austin Theory. You all have first and last names now."
Also, where's Pete Dunne at? You are no longer whatever your name is.
Yeah,
what's his new name? Butch. You're no longer Butch.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about. You're not Butch anymore, guy. You can be Pete Dunne and still be, in the Fight Night group that you're in, whatever. All right, moving right along here. Next match on the card. Man, again, a match that we've seen quite a few times, a no disqualification tag team match. The Mysterios featuring Rey and Dominic taking on the Judgment Day featuring Finn Balor and Damian Priest. PJ, how'd you feel about this match? It went 11 minutes, 5 seconds, not terribly long. How'd you feel about this match? Another tag team match between the Mysterios and Judgment Day.
It's crazy how all it takes is Rey Mysterio getting into that match to really pick up the pace. The match was a little slow for me, but it seems that right when Rey got that tag, it went to the races. The match was pretty good, actually. You went 11 minutes. I think they got plenty of time there. Edge is helping. Edge comes out, helps set up the 619 on the springboard splash, and it gives Rey the pin. You get Rey and Dominic going over there. We'll kind of talk about this and when we talk about the whole Logan Paul thing. And I know this doesn't sound connected, but trust me, folks, stay with us to the end because it is. But Dominic does indeed keep getting better and better, man. The guy, he's still a little green, still a little clunky. Did he get rushed right into that position that he's in? Absolutely. But he's getting better, man. I shat on Shayna Baszler for a long time, too, because I thought she was super green and she didn't belong where she was, and she got 10 times better. And if she could get better, or if anyone can get better, like Dominic can, too. Dominic is doing just fine. Marks just like to hate. And he had a good showing in this match.
I agree completely.
Plus he takes a lot of fucking bumps, man. He takes a lot of spots.
He's paying his dues, right? Live in front of our eyes. He's paying his dues. Real quick, you really skated over the fact that Edge returned. If you've been living under a rock, the Judgment Day turned on Edge. We've been seeing vignettes for weeks that we all sort of speculated that the Edge's return. And Edge returns here at SummerSlam, and as PJ said, assisted the Mysterios in defeating the Judgment Day. But to your point about Dominic Mysterio, man, he's super green. It's one of those things. It's hard to be the son following in your father's footsteps in a sports capacity. Like Michael Jordan's kids did not make it in basketball. Ken Griffey Jr. is an exception that he would turn out to be better than Ken Griffey Sr. Time will tell what happens with LeBron James and Bronny James. You've got second and third generation superstars that become bigger than their parents ever were. I'm talking The Rock. I'm talking Randy Orton. But you've got serviceable second and third generation superstars, a la Natalya, that, they're put on this pedestal and they're given this sort of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but they're expected to perform at a certain level.
They're given this prestige because of their family.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't, yeah.
And so
Curtis Axel is a huge example.
Yes. And I'm here to say that there's a lot of people that are criticizing Dominic's wrestling right now that have no business doing so. He's much bigger than his dad, and people expect him to run around and be as agile and be a luchador, and that's not his body style. So, again, we're going to get more into that in the main event when we talk about Logan Paul. So we're going to move right along here. Again, Mysterios go over 11 minutes, 5 seconds. Next match on the card, I kind of looked forward to it. I love everything Pat McAfee does. Pat McAfee taking on Happy Corbin one-on-one here. This match went 10 minutes, 40 seconds. It might have gone a little too long. But man, the finish was it makes sense because Pat McAfee was a punter. So the referee is distracted. Corbin turns around and he gets kicked in the man parts by Pat McAfee, sets up the win. Dude, Pat McAfee, he's my favorite thing. And listen, I am an AJ Styles mark. I love everything that he does. I'm really excited to see what happens with Braun Breaker. I love everything Pat McAfee does. I think had he come straight out of football and started training to be a wrestler instead of going into podcasting, whatever the case is, I think Pat McAfee could have been a star. PJ, how'd you feel about this match? And what do you have to say about Pat McAfee and what he's doing here for WWE?
I did not like this match. I think that I thought there was no chemistry between the two. They botched the finish. Yeah, just 10 minutes though was a good time. They got plenty of time. They got running out of time. The best part of this match was during Baron Corbin's entrance where Pat McAfee was singing "Bum Ass Corbin." That's funny.
Oh, they had a chorus. They had like a church.
They had a whole chorus singing "Bum Ass Corbin."
Fantastic.
Fucking funny. That was great. And then then the bell rang. And to me, and like McAfee, like, I don't know shit about him except the couple matches that we've seen him in. And yes, very good athlete, and so is Corbin. But yeah, this didn't do it for me. I did not like this match.
Yeah, I guess we'll agree to disagree. Granted, listen, this isn't a 5-star match. This isn't.
And McAfee flipping onto Corbin was the other part of the match I enjoyed. McAfee flipping to Corbin. This is like the one note that I wrote down, and Michael Cole screams out the Swan Tone Bambini, and Graves is just like, the what? And the Swan Tone Bambini. I almost spit my beer out. That was really, really funny.
I did love the fact that Michael Cole got so animated when McAfee won. Like, he's out of his seat. Like, I'm noticing it more and more that Michael Cole is more animated than he's been in years. And he gets up, he's standing up, he's just shaking his hands, he's screaming. I love McAfee and Michael Cole. Now, were you aware that Michael Cole is like 80% deaf?
Yeah.
I was not aware of that whatsoever. I was made aware of that not very long ago. But
do you know why? You know why he's deaf?
I'm not.
So here's the thing: his hearing is actually going to get a lot better because, for example, you're doing a 3 to 4 hour show, or even 5 to 6 hour if it's WrestleMania, and you hear this, God damn it, Cole, mention the thing, you got to mention the thing with a suplex, and then you got to do that. God damn it, Cole, what is he doing? Get the camera on it. So you've had to do that for years, and hear that old fuck screaming in your ear. You're probably going to be deaf.
Yeah, that's
God damn it.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I don't know if hearing loss can be recovered without hearing aids or cochlear implants, but nevertheless, trying to move it along here. Pat McAfee again had a really not a great match, but he's so over, man. And again, SmackDown in Greenville, it showed how much over he was. He either sort of continuing the Corbin McAfee angle. McAfee throws a little Nerf football with Ricochet after Ricochet puts down Corbin on SmackDown. He throws it back to Corbin, or McAfee, I should say. McAfee signs the football and punts it into the crowd in Greenville. It was just a really fun moment. And again, like, I don't know. Like I said, everything that McAfee does, Nakamura is coming out without Boogs, but McAfee is still just dancing on the tables. You saw him like stomping Michael Cole, like just kind of like trying to get Michael Cole into it. Just, again, I love everything McAfee does. But let's move right along here. Tag team championship match. The Usos once again taking on the Street Profits. This match went 13 minutes, 25 seconds.
So hold on, you're skipping over something that I did take notes for because it was very, very funny. We get a promo here with McIntyre, and he's talking about he's getting ready to challenge Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar at the Clash of the Castle, which I guess their next thing. Is that the thing that's in the UK?
Yes.
In the UK?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the first stadium show in the UK since I think 89 when
that's right.
Bulldog beat Bret Hart for the Intercontinental title.
So McIntyre says, let's talk about Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the first time ever in Nashville in a last man standing match in front of what's your name? Colt. In front of Colt for the first time ever. Like, just making fun of the fact that we've seen this match 1,000 times and that we're still supposed to be excited for it, and Drew just shits on it in a promo was gold to me, and I found that really, really funny and very creative. Anyway, that's what I had. Yeah, that's all.
No, that's again. I'm glad you mentioned it because that was very entertaining segment here at SummerSlam. PJ, let's reset here. The Usos and the Street Profits for the, I guess, 15th time. I think that they could have taken some time from the Logan Paul match and given it to this. I don't know how Logan Paul went longer than this match here. JEFF, JARRETT, the Pride of Nashville.
Oh, damn it, Ryan.
Mr. Slapnuts himself, Jeff Jarrett, is the special guest referee. He didn't really get a whole lot, really involved in this match. Every now and then they would start to get going, and he would separate them like physically. But Jeff Jarrett behind the scenes is, at least until Vince had gone, is the president of WWE live events. So it's not like he's not there week in and week out at this point. But I digress. PJ, to me, from a wrestling standpoint, this is my match of the card, match of the night. Usos and the Street Profit. How'd you feel about this match?
It was the match of the night. Great match. My only argument was that Jarrett didn't need to be there because he was barely a fucking factor there.
Yep.
And you got two teams, by the way, who are super fucking over. Did you really think you needed Jeff Jarrett in the match? I get it's Nashville. I understand it's Nashville. And I also hated the comparison of like, well, they're doing the same thing that Jesse Ventura did, having him at Minnesota, which I mentioned that last time we talked about it. But looking at this, it's completely different because at least Ventura got involved in the match and was a factor and was involved in storyline, whereas Jarrett was just brought in there because he happened to be in Nashville and he didn't do dick in this match. So it would have been no different than having any other referee in there. So yeah, I kind of didn't like that. I thought it was a waste of time. That being said, the match itself was really good.
Yeah, so far there's two matches that I would suggest that you actually watch on this card if you're limited time. I would watch obviously Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch and the Usos and the Street Profits. Not really much to say because it's just these guys going at it for a little over 13 minutes. We do get the finish. Obviously, the Usos go over, and Montez Ford sits up in the ring with his eyes wide, just sort of staring into space. Again, sort of continuing to push this narrative. We mentioned that there was rumor and innuendo that this might be the time that they break up the Profits. They're continuing to push this. It looks like Ford is sort of just zoning out, like, how have we not won the titles yet? How did this happen again? But nevertheless, the Usos go over. They're still teasing this split up of the Street Profits. And it leads into the penultimate match on the card, which I'm glad they opened up with the other women's championship match instead of this one. I was mistaken. Bobby Lashley Theory was not the shortest match on the card. The SmackDown Women's Championship match was.
Yeah.
Liv Morgan takes on Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship in a rematch from when Liv Morgan cashed in on Ronda Rousey. This match goes 4 minutes, 35 seconds. It's a bunch of arm bars from Ronda Rousey to Liv Morgan. Eventually, Liv Morgan sort of stacks Ronda Rousey on her shoulders for the 3 counts. And as the referee's hand was going down to 3, Liv Morgan tapped out. So we've got controversy. Ronda Rousey doesn't get beat clean by Liv Morgan, but Liv Morgan still retains the championship. And after the match, Ronda Rousey goes ballistic, attacks Liv Morgan, then would attack the referee. And now she has been kayfabe suspended to give her much needed time off because she works every week tirelessly as one of the best female wrestlers in the world. So we do need. You're not picking up on the sarcasm. You can't see it in my face.
I was. Yeah, I'm picking it up. I just couldn't those words and Ronda Rousey should never be in the same sentence unless the word is not.
No, I agree. But PJ, how'd you feel about this match? Again, short match, another rematch. How'd you feel about this match?
Yeah, I did like the finish actually because it does lead to some controversy, which is fun. What I didn't like, the match itself was okay. It was a lot of arm bars. I love that. I guess I didn't notice this, but I wrote this down. Liv Morgan's finisher is called the Oblivion, and that's really, really cool. That's fun. I didn't know that until I was reading that. Every time I heard them, the Oblivion or whatever. I was like, oh shit, that's fun.
Tell the YouTube crowd what your dog's name is, and tell us how she felt or how he felt about the match. You pulled your dog up.
Roddy hated the match. This is Roddy.
That's
He
Hot
was
Roddy?
found. Yep, he was found in the Food Lion parking lot, and we name him Rowdy Roddy Pupper.
Nice.
But yeah, he's a good dog.
Well, it's a perfect intro because it was Rowdy Ronda Rousey. You got Rowdy.
Oh, brother, listen to you. No,
yeah.
it's a perfect intro because the next match has the big dog in it.
Oh yeah, that's a good segue. Well,
Jesus Christ.
Well, since we've got the segue, we're gonna take our final break of the night of the show. When we come back, we're gonna get into this main event, last man standing match, the longest match on the card. Paul Heyman taking Roman Reigns to the ring to take on Brock Lesnar for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. So stay tuned. We'll be right back right here on Tap House and Touchdowns. All right, everybody, welcome back to the main event of Tap House and Touchdowns this week. PJ Steven, your guy, Bully Rye, here to break down the main event of SummerSlam, and we got a little bit of a discussion to have afterwards. PJ, without further ado, let's just get right into it, shall we? Roman Reigns, once again, defending the undisputed WWE Universal Championship against the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. I didn't write any notes, but I got a lot to say about this match. It was sort of gift or memed. Brock Lesnar, let's just start off. Brock Lesnar drives a tractor out to the ring, pulls the handle up on the tractor, and then climbs into, I guess, the bucket of the tractor.
Yeah.
And cuts his promo, like says who he is, whatever the case is, and then throws his mic to Roman Reigns. Have you seen this video, PJ?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
He throws the mic, and the most effortless catch you will ever see. It falls directly into Roman's left hand. Just, if this is all the match was, then you're in for a treat. Like this, it's one of the most just in what's the word I'm looking for? Like, it means nothing, insignificant moment, but it's so good.
It's still super fun, and yeah, it was.
And then to boot, Brock jumps out of the bucket of the tractor into the ring onto Roman Reigns. I mean, that's how we started this match off. This is the longest match on the card. It goes 23 minutes. PJ, how'd you feel about this match? Obviously, there's a lot to dive into here, especially with the tractor involved. But how'd you feel about this match? If you want to break it down, whatever you want to do, just kind of give us your thoughts on how this match progressed.
It was very physical. It almost looked a little stiff. It was good. A lot of teases with the last man standing feature with they're getting up at 6 or getting up at 7. Man, Lesnar hitting Reigns the steel steps and with a broken piece of the table was pretty cool. But Reigns put Lesnar through, I think, 2 tables in that little exchange. Lesnar throws Reigns to the bucket, the front loader of the tractor, and then dumped Reigns back into the ring. I mean, there's a lot of spots for the tractor. It wasn't a bad match. It was kind of fun. A little bit too much gaga, but it was still okay. We get an attempted cash in by all theory. He didn't officially cash in, right?
No.
I didn't think so, yeah.
No.
So attempted cash, that's what I thought. Attempted cash in, but Lesnar intercepts theory with an F5. Usos perform the super kicks on Lesnar. Usos come out. A lot of gaga to end it, but you have Roman Reigns going over on Lesnar in the last man standing match, who he gets up at 9 and Lesnar stays down at 10.
So when gaga, are you talking about the tractor lifting up the ring? Is that the gaga that you're referring to? Ladies and gentlemen, the tractor that we have been talking about, Brock Lesnar used it to lift up a corner of the ring. And again, one of the best visuals you ever see as Roman is in the corner that Brock is picking up. And Roman just staggers and falls and rolls out of the ring. And that's where the ring stays for the rest of the match. It is one of the most unique visuals. You got to think about it. The first time we ever saw the ring collapse, Brock Lesnar suplexed Big Show.
Big Show on it, yeah.
Roman Reigns has been involved in a lot of first things that they've done with the ring that we've never seen before, and lifting it up with a tractor was most definitely that. We also see Brock Lesnar finally get his hands on Paul Heyman.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you mentioned the cash in. All of a sudden, Paul comes over to plead with Brock. Brock puts him through the announce table. Again, if you watch SmackDown, they're sort of teasing that Paul Heyman's going to be gone for a while as a result of this. But it's sort of, again, it all sort of makes sense to me when I asked you to break it down. Maybe I might have even asked it in the opening bell. Is this the last time we see Brock Lesnar for a while? Because now we see, we see him get physical with Paul. It's a last man standing match that he loses, in which it takes roughly 5 people to interfere to then bury him under. And this isn't just like burying somebody with a stack of chairs. It was pieces of the announce table. It was pieces of the stairs. Like they took everything they could to throw it on top of Brock Lesnar, so Brock Lesnar was not getting up. That was sort of where my tease was. I feel like this is the last we've seen of Brock Lesnar for quite some time. I don't think we get him back at the Rumble. If we do, it's not in the Rumble. I think this is his last hoorah, his last run at a title. I just don't. He's getting older. He's already gone through this new gimmick where he's Farmer Brock Lesnar, I guess if you want to call it that. But PJ, anything I say sort of resonate? Like, does anything that I say make you feel differently about Brock Lesnar possibly stepping away for a while?
It did for a little bit until you reminded me about the tractor gimmick and the cowboy gimmick. That is so over right now that they're probably not going to let that go just yet. That being said, I hope Lesnar's gone for a little while because he gets old. It gets old sitting on my TV. I still don't think I don't think we'll see him next week, but I think in the next few months we'll still see him again.
I don't expect to see him for quite some time, especially.
And I hope you're right, by the way. I hope you're right, by the way.
I mean, Triple H has got people coming back. Like, again, we've already seen Bayley, Dakota Kai, Io Sky all come back in this pay-per-view. We then saw.
Well, let's mention too what's sort of unspoken there is, I know we're not really talking about it right now, but it didn't happen at SummerSlam. But who came back on SmackDown?
Yeah, I was getting there. So then,
okay,
you've got so you mentioned Drew McIntyre was sort of cutting a promo to sort of pitch his match against Roman at the UK special. So
Clash at the Castle.
Yeah, he's gonna confront Roman on SmackDown Friday in Greenville, and all of a sudden music hits. The screen turns a different color. You see the figure of a woman at the top of the ramp, and we get the return of Karrion Kross, otherwise known as Killer Kross, who was also in a match at Ric Flair's final match. So we brought Karrion Kross back. There are rumors that they're willing to listen, and by they I mean Sasha Banks and Trinity Fatu, aka Naomi. They're willing to talk about coming back at this point. They all, again, I mentioned in Break It Down, they're bringing back the women's tag team title belts. They're doing things that I feel like are going to take away from needing Brock Lesnar. Like, this is Triple H's start. He's going to start developing guys that he wants to bring in. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Johnny Gargano back in a WWE ring and maybe on the main roster somewhere. There's going to be some guys from NXT that we didn't really get a whole lot from on the main roster that we may see return. So
I think Apollo Crews is really going to hopefully rise up along with Ricochet. Ricochet was someone that, H really wanted to push up, and it just didn't happen.
And Ricochet, in his first SmackDown since Triple H took over after SummerSlam, Ricochet went over on Happy Corbin. So, yeah, to your point, there's going to be, and not to mention you've got this Gunther push with the Intercontinental title. So there's a lot of stuff going on that I feel like, yeah, Brock Lesnar's a draw, but I don't think it's something that WWE needs right now, especially if they're trying to develop some talent and sort of get some talent over that wouldn't be there if Vince McMahon was still in charge. PJ, as far as SummerSlam goes, rate the card. Scale of 1 to 5. How many stars would you give this as an overall event here?
2 stars.
I was going to say, for those who aren't watching on YouTube, PJ give it 2 stars.
And why are you not watching it on YouTube? Well, because you're driving.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Just be unsafe. Just
be a better driver, and then you can watch TV while you do it.
No,
idiot.
I'm with you.
2 stars.
I'd give it 3. I mean, 2 makes it a below average card. I'd say this is an average card. I mean, the main event was real fun. It went long, but it was real fun. The tag team match was a great. By the tag team match, I mean the tag team title match, and then Bianca Belair, Becky Lynch put on a show, and then watching Becky's babyface turn at the end, and then watching the debut of Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and Bailey is. I've got a feeling they're going to name their faction like Control. I've seen something on Twitter where she posted that. So I'm interested to see where
that face turn was really cool. I will give you that. Yeah, it was very below average to me. I found myself when the main event came, I found myself saying like, man, I really haven't had a lot of fun watching this.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. So that was SummerSlam, and we're gonna finish off the main event, sort of maybe some extra time, if you will. Maybe that 3 count came down. This is an Iron Man match, and we're tied, so we're gonna go into overtime here. PJ, I've seen a lot of discussion pick up on social media comparing Logan Paul to Dominic Mysterio, in that Logan Paul is a better wrestler, a better sports entertainer than Dominic Mysterio, considering that Logan Paul's only had 2 matches. I'm gonna open up the floor. What do you have to say to people who are trying to compare Logan Paul with Dominic Mysterio, to sort of disparage Dominic Mysterio's in-ring work, and then to also help elevate Logan Paul as a sports entertainer?
So Logan Paul to me is, he's the epitome of somebody who doesn't deserve to be listened to. He is on par with me with like an Alex Jones or a
Vince Russo.
No, because Vince Russo has qualities that I mean, let's be real. Vince Russo made Goldust be awesome, and Goldust is one of my favorites. All those vignettes were Vince Russo. Vince Russo has some. We can do a whole Vince Russo episode. That being said, I'm not a fan of him, but there were some things that Vince Russo does that, guys like Logan Paul have no redeeming qualities whatsoever. And just because he's a decent, just because he can move a little bit, he's athletic, doesn't make him a better wrestler by any means. And I think it's just another excuse for fans just to shit on Dominic for no reason. Like it's one of those things where it's like, why aren't you as fast and as good as your dad?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like, I never saw this much shit with DiBiase. Never saw this much shit with fucking Bo Dallas. Never saw this much shit with Curtis Axel. It's just one of those things. I also want to bring in to, if it pleases the court, Exhibit A, which is one of the main reasons that Logan Paul, besides just being a fucking tool, one of the reasons that Logan Paul was just terrible is terrible. I saw this video before it was taken down, and it was December 31st, 2017. Paul uploaded a vlog to his YouTube channel depicting a recently deceased corpse of a man who had died by hanging himself at the base of Mount Fuji in Japan, which is known as the Suicide Forest. It's very, very graphic. It was his Tokyo Adventure series where he and a group had planned to camp in the woods, but in response to finding the corpse, they decided to notify the authorities and cancel the plans. The video gained 6.3 million views. Paul's video depicting the corpse and his group's reactions were criticized by celebrities and politicians. Basically, they laughed at this man who had killed himself, saying he took the easy way out, and saying, with not even knowing this dude's name, not knowing his story or anything, just completely just laughing at this man. It just
they were laughing at the Forest. They were laughing at Suicide Forest, in my opinion.
You good?
No, I was gonna say he can say whatever he wants to say about what the video was supposed to be, whatever the case is, and you were gonna go on to say that he removed the video, but not before he was sued for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not before he was forced to make an apology for it. To your point, like that's one of the most, as someone who studied psychology in college, as someone who has battled depression, knows people on a regular basis who battles depression and anxiety and struggles with going on, for someone to make a mockery of it. And the only reason he removed the video and the only reason why he apologized is because he knew what it would do for his brand.
Yeah.
Had he not done it. And
Yeah.
so, I've got a really good friend who's a huge Logan Paul fan. Not as much Jake Paul, but a huge Logan Paul fan. And she really tries to get me like, he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy. I'm like, yeah, well, I haven't seen him do anything to sort of make up for what he did in the Suicide Forest outside of apologizing. Like, and maybe I need to do more research. Maybe he did. Maybe he did donate to some.
No, he didn't. No, I've already done research. No, he didn't. He also is one of these fucks that come out and say that being gay is a choice. He has come out and said like, well, I think he was making fun of the Pride Month and said, what is it, male only March? We're going to attempt to go gay for just 1 month. And went on to say how how being gay is a choice and it's not something that you're born with and all this. And I just find it so, and, it's one of those things where like, well, how can you hate him for giving his opinion? And it's like that, one of those things where.
Because his opinion is trash. I mean
that too, because it's a bad. Not only is it a bad opinion, but it's not correct.
Yeah,
and it goes into, and I'm not going to talk too much about this, but it goes into the whole and I know we've talked about this off air about the lawsuit that's going on right now as we talk about Alex Jones. There's so many people that come out and say, well, how can you be criticized and how can you be sued for your opinion? And it goes into the harm and it goes into the example and the harm of what you're doing to that other party. And the biggest example is all the hate mail and all the death threats that the parents of the Sandy Hook victims got because of Jones' words. A lot of people thought that they were actors, so they got sent death threats and all this shit. Well, that in itself is a crime because you're putting that out there. So this kind of hate speech and this kind of just terrible pattern of behavior is another reason why I just don't give Logan Paul the time of day. Also, his boxing career, if you even want to call it a career, is just a shame.
He and Jake Paul. There's a guy that's in our group chats and a lot of our groups that is so gung-ho on Jake and Logan Paul, and they're sports entertainers with boxing gloves on. That's all they are. They don't. Logan Paul boxed Floyd Mayweather. It was an exhibition, so it didn't go to Floyd Mayweather's record. You could tell they weren't really throwing, like, at least Mayweather wasn't trying to knock Logan Paul out. And the knock on Jake Paul is that he doesn't fight any real boxers, and he doesn't. He fights washed up former athletes like Nate Robinson was an NBA player. He fought Tyron Woodley that you can say, you can argue however you want, but right before he got knocked out in that fight, he pulled his hand down like he knew what was coming. So I don't know, man. I just the Paul brothers are a joke, and they're part of what's wrong with society. I mean, they are the male Kardashians, in my opinion. They are famous for being famous, and their fame has allowed them to get into boxing, has allowed them to get into professional wrestling. And to your point, like, I'll never give Logan Paul the time. Again, we can talk all day about how the fact that he's an athlete, because he is athletic. He does do some cool things in the ring, but he can't sell. And everything that he does is a carbon copy of somebody else. He's out there doing what we did when we were kids, jumping off the couch onto a mattress that we put on the floor. Like, that's all he's doing. But people want to use it from a wrestling standpoint to compare to Dominic Mysterio. Like, Dominic Mysterio is trying to tell stories. Dominic Mysterio is trying to hone the craft, and I'm sure he probably never always wanted to be a professional wrestler. I mean, when your dad's Rey Mysterio, do you want to come into that field and to try to be the next Rey Mysterio? Because again, and I sort of touched on it in Break It Down. Dominic Mysterio is not the size of a cruiserweight. Dominic Mysterio, for all intents and purposes, is bigger than Eddie Guerrero was.
Yeah.
And so to have him trying to go out here and be a luchador and to jump around in the ring like he's Rey Mysterio, not only does it disservice to him, but it does a disservice to the product, because if you took him in, like, listen, you've got some stuff, like you can pull a 619, you can go upstairs, you can go up to the top rope, you can do a frog splash. If that's what you want your finish to be, cool. But like, whenever they do break him away from his dad, they need to let him build a persona for himself. They need to let him become him. Because right now everybody sees the fact that he's trying to do all these dives and jumps, and he's slow and methodic because he doesn't want to mess him up.
And not, you say it's a disservice to himself. It's also disservice to the other talent, because it's dangerous.
Yeah.
If he hurts somebody, and oh, God forbid if he hurts somebody, it's going to be all Dominic's fault. So funny.
I don't know how many times in that match between The Miz and Logan Paul that I thought Logan Paul was going to kill Miz.
Yeah.
Even the skull crushing finale, people normally put their hands over their head, and that's how they take it. Well, one of Miz's arms was under him, so he could have broken a collarbone. He could have pulled his shoulder out. Like, it just didn't look clean. But nobody wants to talk about that, because Logan Paul can leapfrog somebody jumping, and he can jump off the top rope through a table like Shane McMahon, and he can do the splits. Like, I just don't get how people can latch onto someone knowing how bad of a person they are, can latch onto someone like Logan Paul, like, I'm a fan of this dude. This dude's going to be great. This dude could be special. The same way they latch on to people like Vince McMahon after stories have come out with him that forced him into early retirement. People that still glorify Hulk Hogan after the things he said. People that still love Ric Flair after the stories that come out with him. Like, granted, Ric Flair is one of the best wrestlers of all time, but he's not a good dude.
Let me some of these same people, and what I'm going to hit you with. Who I'm talking about. Some of these same people are the ones that say, like, how can you watch a Chris Benoit match?
Exactly.
And it's like, I'm not comparing the fact that Logan Paul is a murderer or anything, but I mean, it's one of those things where, when we talk about rape and sexual assault, I mean, that's a heinous crime when it goes against murder and shit. I just find it so silly and just awful. And especially the Hulk Hogan thing. I mean, like, he apologized. It's like, man, he apologized because he got caught. That dude would still be doing the same thing, because his apology, literally the last words of his apology were, if I could say something to all the young guys, just be careful what you say, because you don't know who's listening. That's not an apology.
Yeah. His apology was again, his apology was a PR move, and it wasn't even a good one.
No.
Like, even when he was apologizing in the middle of the apology, like, you could tell that it wasn't sincere. He was doing it because WWE was pulling his likeness off of the website. WWE was removing him from the Hall of Fame. WWE was taking him off of video games. WWE was taking him off the show intros. So Hogan was doing it to save his own face. And I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how much more we can get into the Logan Paul. I think that the comparison is unfair. It's unwarranted, and it's silly, to use one of your words. It's just silly to try to compare Logan Paul with Dominic Mysterio. They're different lineages. They're different people. They're different talents, and their jobs are different. Logan Paul's job is to draw some people who aren't necessarily fans of wrestling. My friend who I told you was trying to get me to warm up to Logan Paul, she's like, I want to watch wrestling because Logan Paul is supposed to be on it. So that's the audience WWE is trying to pull with Logan Paul. Don't try to compare him to a guy who's trying to become a legitimate professional wrestler, and at least, if nothing more, just a mid-card guy that can put on good matches with people. Don't hate me this shit about how Logan Paul is better than Dominic Mysterio, because it's not true, and it's completely disrespectful to Dominic Mysterio. PJ, you got anything to add to close it up?
No, I think we've said enough about it, because the less words I have to say about Logan Paul, the better. So, guys, we're going to leave you guys on a great note instead of a shitty note with Logan Paul. Fuck Logan Paul. We got a lot of great content coming up for you guys, man. Like, we got some terrific stuff coming up. We've got a couple of throwbacks that we're going to throw at you. Throwbacks to throw at you. Yeah. And, of course, we have more current content that we're looking at as well. But, man, we love doing those throwback pay-per-views too. So if you guys have any any kind of
suggestions,
requests, thank you. If you guys have any requests to throw into our Twitter or his Twitter, tap outs and touchdowns, man, please let us know, because I love doing those things, to be able to go back and rewatch things that were like, oh shit, I forgot this happened, But yeah, I think we can get some throwbacks in there before the the year. I know maybe October we can hit up some Halloween Havocs.
We do, we do have a request.
September, let's do some fall brawls,
Yep. Oh yeah, we do have a request for Halloween Havoc. We did get another request for something that we'll talk about off air, but we do have a Halloween Havoc that we're going to review. As PJ said, there's a lot of current stuff going on right now. There's a lot of throwbacks. I mean, it's the fall, so it's sort of a slower time right now for professional wrestling. I mean, you've got Survivor Series coming in November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
So it's a while before the next big 4 pay-per-view for WWE. But you're going to have some AEW stuff going on. Ring of Honor just had a show that we might look into. So a lot of good stuff. And then if you listened last week, football is back. We had the Hall of Fame game last week. I gave you my fantasy football preview show. So I'm going to be dropping football episodes every week going forward. And you want to make sure you're paying attention to Tobacco Road Sports Radio and the Tobacco Road Sports Radio Network, because I was just on the show on Saturday, and they run a show on Saturdays. It actually runs on an AM station in the North Carolina market. So a lot of cool stuff with football coming up. PJ, before we sign off, I know you just said you had a show. Guardians Warlock had a show this past weekend. Anything you got coming up with Guardians Warlock that you wanna plug before we sign off here?
Yeah, we've got we're actually traveling up to Alabama this next weekend to play down there at a punk rock brewery called True Story Brewing. I'm really, really excited for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're playing back in Charleston on August 27th. So a lot of shows coming up. We're super, super busy, and it's very, very fun. So I'm going to be busy and current things. I also want to remind you guys that the G1 Climax is going on as we speak. So hopefully that we will go over the G1 finals. It's looking like it's going to be a really, really good one. I have some sort of foreshadowing to who I think might win. But we'll talk about that in a different episode. But man, I love fantasy booking the G1 Climax, because it really does set up towards the end of the year, and it really does help set up all the way to Wrestle Kingdom in January. So G1 Climax, if you're not watching it, definitely check it out.
Right on. Make sure you follow Guardians Warlock. That's Guardians with an apostrophe as Warlock on social media platforms. Make sure you're going to listen to their music on Apple Music. Are you on Spotify, PJ, as well?
Oh yeah, we're on all those little things. Yeah. iTunes. We're probably on MySpace too.
Oh, fun! I hear MySpace these days is for rock bands and hookers. At least that's what I was.
That's why we're there. That's why we're there.
Rock bands and hookers. PJ, it's been a blast again. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks for talking some SummerSlam 2022. Again, later on this week, another football episode. We'll be breaking down some divisional projections, I guess, coming up for the upcoming NFL season. Not going to touch on too much of the news that's been going on any more than we already have. But then next week, again, we're back at it with another wrestling show and a football show. It's my busy time of year. So hopefully, I haven't said it in the show, hopefully my air conditioner is working again. It is 85 degrees in my house. I've been recording this in the 85-degree heat, but I wanted to make sure, because I haven't put a YouTube episode up in a while, that everybody gets to see my glistening, sweating face on the YouTube channel.
At least you're literally losing weight just sitting there.
I am. It's like I'm in a personal sauna. It's like I'm back in my old cutting weight wrestling days. You know what I mean?
That's right. And you and me, we definitely have the weight to lose, baby.
That's it. You ain't kidding. With that being said, that's the show for this week. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks if you watched it on YouTube. Make sure if there's anything you want us to cover in the future, you go to my social media platforms. Facebook.com/tapoutsandtouchdowns, at tapouts and TDs on Twitter. Email the show tapoutsandtouchdowns@gmail.com. For PJ Steven, it's your guy, Bully Rye. I'll be around.